Man, this is a first for me. Found out my wife is cheating while I mowed the grass. There were shoes in the bushes. I was away on business for 4 days. Nothing unusual about that. I travel for work about 4 times a month, usually just 3 or 4 days at a time. My wife and I have been married for 4 years, no kids yet. She works at an animal clinic as a technician with a pretty normal schedule, home by 6 most nights. I work in sales and the travel is just part of the job. We live here in Florida and we live in a nice house with a big yard. When I got back from this particular trip, everything seemed normal. My wife picked me up from the airport, we had dinner together and watched some TV, the usual routine when I get back. I had been home for about 2 days when I decided to cut the grass. It had been growing while I was away and was starting to look pretty rough. Our yard is big and it takes about an hour and a half to mow the whole thing. I always start in the front and work my way around to the back. While I was cutting the grass near the back fence, I noticed something strange. There was a pair of men's dress shoes sitting by the fence line. This is crazy. I have never narrated a story about a pair of shoes being suspicious. Just sitting there in the bushes like someone had taken them off and just left them. These were nice shoes too, not some cheap shoes. Black leather dress shoes that probably cost at least $200. I stopped them more and walked over to get a better look. The shoes were definitely not mine. I wear a size 11 and these look like they might be a size 9 or 10. Plus they were a style I would never wear. Too fancy for my taste. I picked up one of the shoes and looked at it more closely. There was still grass stuck to the bottom like someone had been walking around my yard recently. The shoes were not wet or weathered, so they hadn't been there long, maybe a day or two at most. I started thinking about when these shoes could have gotten there. I had been gone for 4 days on my business trip. My wife was home alone the whole time. At least that's what I thought. Now I was starting to wonder. Something about finding expensive dress shoes in my backyard didn't sit right with me. Who leaves behind $200 shoes? And why were they in my bushes? I carried the shoes inside and set them by the trash can in the kitchen. When my wife gets home from work that evening, I show them to her. I ask if she knows anything about them. She looks at the shoes and shrugs. She acts like she has no idea how they got there. Maybe someone jumped the fence to get a ball or something. Maybe they belong to one of the neighbors. Her explanations don't really make sense though. Why would someone take their shoes off to retrieve a ball? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I can't think of any valid reason why someone would take their shoes off and leave them by the fence. Why not leave them by the back door or patio? And why would they leave expensive shoes behind at that? I decided not to push it that night, but then I remember something important. We have a security camera system in the front of the house. It records everything that happens in the driveway and front yard. We installed it about a year ago as a safety precaution because I travel. The camera saves footage for 30 days before it gets deleted. Since I have only been back for 2 days, the footage from my trip should still be there. The next morning, after my wife leaves for work, I pull up the security app on my phone. I start scrolling back through the footage from when I was out of town. The first day looks normal. My wife comes and goes to work at her usual times. Nothing unusual. The second day is the same, but on the third day, something caught my attention. Around 2 in the afternoon, a black sedan pulls into our driveway. A man gets out of the car. He is wearing a dark suit and dress shoes, the same type of dress shoes that I found in the bushes. The man walks up to the front door. My question is, if she works 9 to 5 during the week, why is she home at 2 p.m.? My wife opens it before he even knocks, like she was waiting for him. The man is carrying a clipboard and appears to be doing some kind of business visit, very professional looking. My wife answers the door and they have what looks like a normal conversation. She steps aside and lets him in. Nothing suspicious about it at all. They disappear inside the house. I fast forward the footage to see when the man leaves. About 3 hours later, the front door opens. Really? 3 hours? That wasn't a sales visit. My wife walks the man to his car. They keep a normal distance from each other, just like any business transaction. But here's the strange part. The man is now wearing different shoes, casual sneakers instead of the dress shoes he arrived in. That explains why the dress shoes ended up in the bushes. They must have gone to the backyard at some point, the back of the house where there are no security cameras. The guy probably took his shoes off back there and forgot to put them back on when he left. Maybe they were on the patio or by the pool. I continue watching the footage from the fourth day of my trip. The same black sedan shows up again, this time around noon. This goes back to my question. If she is working 9 to 5 during the week, why is she home? And this guy is inside his house for hours at a time. The same routine happens. The man arrives with his clipboard, professional conversation at the door. They go inside. About 3 hours later, he leaves. But this time, my wife slips up. As he turns his back to her to leave, her hand slides down his back slowly, like she is trying to get a last feel. And this time, he remembers to wear his original shoes. But now I know what's really going on. The clipboard and professional appearance is just a cover. My wife has been having an affair while I travel for work, and they've been smart about it, acting normal in front of the security camera, then going to the back of the house where they can't be seen. I save the security footage to my phone, make sure to get clear shots of the man's face. Then I start checking footage from previous weeks. Sure enough, the same routine shows up multiple times. Always when I was out of town, I take screenshots of the best footage showing the man's face. Then I start doing some detective work on social media. I post on local community groups asking if anyone recognizes the man, saying I think the guy hit my mailbox and drove off. Within a few hours, someone responds. The man runs a local landscaping and pool maintenance company. He does estimates and service calls all around the neighborhood. That would explain the clipboard and why going to the backyard would seem normal. Now everything makes perfect sense. The professional cover story, the clipboard, and the careful behavior in front of the camera. They thought they were being so clever, but one forgotten pair of shoes gave them away. Now I have everything I need. Clear video evidence of my wife bringing another man to our house multiple times over several weeks while I was traveling for work. Screenshots showing the man's face and the pattern of visits, and the physical evidence of the dress shoes. But here's the thing about Florida. It's a no-fault divorce state. So even with all this evidence, it doesn't change much legally. The court doesn't care who cheated or why the marriage failed. Property gets divided pretty much 50-50 regardless. But we haven't been married long, so I don't think I will get hit too hard. Still, I want her to know that I know. And I want to leave on my terms, not hers. Instead of confronting my wife immediately, I decided to be smart about it. I act completely normal around her. Don't give any indication that I know what's been going on. I start quietly preparing for my exit. I contacted a divorce attorney and explained the situation. Show him all the evidence I have collected. The attorney confirms what I already knew about Florida law. The cheating evidence won't affect property division. We begin preparing the paperwork. Over the next week, I start moving important documents and personal items, things she wouldn't notice missing right away, some clothes and personal belongings. I move everything to my brother's house slowly, a little bit each day while she's at work. Then comes the day I decide to make my move. My wife leaves for work at her usual time, acting like everything is perfectly normal, kisses me goodbye and tells me to have a good day. As soon as her car is out of the driveway, I spring into action. I print out all the security camera screenshots, the timestamps showing exactly when each visit happened, clear images of the man arriving and leaving, the evidence of the shoe change. I also print out information about the landscaping company and a timeline showing the pattern of visits during my business trips. I spread everything out on the kitchen counter. Then I pack up the rest of my belongings. Before I leave, I write a simple note. The note explains that I know about the affair, that I have been documenting everything for weeks, and that divorce papers will be filed within the next few days. I leave the note right on top of all the printed evidence. Then I load my car and drive away. When my wife gets home that evening, she'll find an empty house. All my stuff gone, and undeniable proof of her cheating spread across the kitchen counter. And at least I got out with my dignity intact. Update. It's been 8 months since I left the house and didn't tell my ex-wife. She tried to contact me until the divorce. I asked her one question, why? She couldn't give me an answer, and she didn't deny it. At the divorce hearing, it was pretty cut and dry. She got her things and I got mine. We didn't have any savings to split. Well, this was a weird one. I kind of agree with him because most pool cleaners only come about once a week, based on what he said, and her AP was coming kind of excessively. Until next time.